the News Hour at 9.
Welcome back. The controversy over a picture of the Prime Minister on the COVID vaccination certificate has been decisively deflated by the Kerala High Court. A learned judge has asked what is wrong with having a picture of the Prime Minister elected by people's mandate. Now let's tell you what exactly the High Court has contended as it dismissed the plea. The first observation is that why are you ashamed of the Prime Minister's photo in the certificate? It's gone to observe that he is our Prime Minister, not the Prime Minister of any other country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi came to power via mandate, and that you cannot challenge just for political differences. Don't waste time. Everyone has different opinions, has observed the court, and that 100 crore people don't have a problem. Why do you? The petitioner works at an institute named after Nehru, another Prime Minister. Why don't you ask the university to take that down as well, is a question that was posed by the bench. If you don't like Mahatma, then remove from the note, is another observation. But despite the tongue lashing by the High Court, opposition continues its offensive. Some even go to the extent of calling the judge an ardent fanboy of the PM, quote unquote. However, the BJP's claim vindication.
The Prime Minister should be a man with a broader vision. And I don't think that he should be a man to print his face on every corner or every pillar or on every piece of paper. It is better to do such things that will make his impression in the minds of the people. Nehru is there in the mind of India, not because he printed his photos on all certificates.
आम जनता के प्रधानमंत्री हैं, देश के प्रधानमंत्री हैं, और इसमें गर्व महसूस करना चाहिए हर प्रदेश को कि प्रधानमंत्री जी की फ़ोटो वैक्सीनेशन के सर्टिफिकेट पे हों। और जिस हिसाब से प्रधानमंत्री जी ने वैक्सीनेशन का जो काम किया है पूरे विश्व में एक दिखा दिया है कि वास्तव में भारत का जो मेडिकल सिस्टम जो है कितना स्ट्रॉन्ग है, कितना उन्होंने ज़बरदस्त इसको रॉबस्ट बनाया है। तो आज भारत सुरक्षित है तो मोदी जी की दूरदृष्टि और उनकी सोच की वजह से।
This brings me to my legitimate question that we're asking tonight. Has the Prime Minister's photo criticism now been deflated?
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 2 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And our four guests continue to be with us: Nupur Sharma, Dr. Anand, Ranganathan, Sanjay Jha. But I first want to go across to Professor Omprakash Misra. Professor Omprakash Misra, after the High Court's observations, hasn't the criticism of the Prime Minister's photo on the vaccine certificate now been once and for all deflated? Shouldn't this controversy rest here?
Parliamentary party, Lok Sabha, and tomorrow it might be Rajnath Singh ji. If the BJP decides to replace Mr. Modi, so what do I do with a picture of the Prime Minister? Prime Minister is a temporary position within the lifeline of a particular Lok Sabha, or for that matter after it. Whereas the vaccination certificate would be required. And I generally do not comment on what is called the observation of the court. There is nothing called observation of the court. Observations of the court, if these actually come out in relationship to an order, that can be commented. But by the way, you should actually think in terms of an order of the court. Bombay High Court yesterday has clearly said that the Prime Minister's name, image, whether it should be part of the official website in the PM Cares Fund, and Government of India has been issued a notice to reply to this. So that is much more important than the so-called picture. And
you don't think it's important that he has asked the petitioner that you're coming from a university which is also named after a Prime Minister. So why are you then objecting? That's not relevant according to you, sir? It's in fact reported quite often what the courts say. They're called obiter dicta,
no,
but you don't think they're important?
There is nothing in the name of any Prime Minister. Is Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, or for that matter Indira Gandhi, or for that matter Dr. Manmohan Singh or Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Of course there can be institutes in their name, in their memory, to honor them.
Okay.
How can you have vaccination certificate?
Okay, how can you have vaccination certificates with the Prime Minister's photo? Opposition says this doesn't happen in any other country. Nupur, your response?
No, if it doesn't happen in any other country, what do? We have a Professor Misra who's directly questioning rather the authority and discretion of the Honorable High Court. He thinks he's smarter and knows the law better than them. Congratulations. Actually, any other court or judge would call it contempt and questioning any kind of judicial knowledge that any of our judges might have. It is interesting what the court also said, that you belong to Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Leadership. Why did you not object to that? In fact, I have a question. It was set at the behest, this institute was set up at the behest of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, then General Secretary in 2007. In 2010, it was an idea mooted in 2007. The institute set up in 2010. Pray tell me, where is the money coming from? Sometime CEO of Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, infamous for getting funds not only from the Indian taxpayer, but also from China. So my direct question is, Indian taxpayer का पैसा आप केवल वो 55, 56 and I don't know God knows how many associations, institutions and organizations is only meant to build institutions after one parivar. No, you're not proud of the Honorable Prime Minister. Can you forget? It's a universal vaccination program wherein all states failed. All states failed. Who said,
I want Sanjay Jha.
Jabs, we are going to inoculate, and you all failed.
All
and
right.
It was the central government which took the bhar and
let Sanjay Jha come in now. Sanjay Jha, your response to Nupur Sharma. It is several states that have actually failed in their criticism that they are making now of the central government. But I just want to point out a small statement that has been made by an individual called Vinay Kumar Dokania, National Congress National Coordinator. He says there are better ways for a judge to apply for Rajya Sabha membership. Now, surely every statement that comes in from the bench should not be associated with some kind of political benefit. You know, because this will be a Pandora's box that we're opening if this is to actually happen, and it's actually happening.
Yeah, Madhav, let me address that before I answer your question. You know, there is recently a Chief Justice of a High Court who actually mentioned that secularism lowered India's spiritual image. So, you know, you have had 4 Supreme Court judges openly saying about the fixing in the Supreme Court itself. So let's stop treating the Indian judiciary as some kind of a holy cow. Every system or every institution in this country has got corrupted in an egregious way since Mr. Modi became Prime Minister. We'll discuss that some other time. I'm not treating any justice here as to be some kind of a repository of the ultimate infinite wisdom. Number 2, very critical. India is the 3rd worst country in the world after America and Brazil in terms of the number of people who have died. 4,75,000 Indians have died. And Madhav, let me tell you, unofficially that number is speculated to be over 4 million. You have to have some degree of immorality, a lack of ethics, and you've got to be brazen and outrageous to put your face on a certificate. Should Mr. Modi put his face on a death certificate? No. The only person whose face should be on a certificate should be the members of the Serum Institute of India who have vaccinated 90% of us, which is why many of us are alive today.
Okay.
Or the doctors, or the nurses.
We have limited time, so I want Dr. Ranganathan to come in now. Dr. Ranganathan, there is no picture of any official functionary, least of all the Prime Minister, on death certificates. Why should they only be there on vaccination certificates? Is the question coming from Sanjay Jha. Please respond.
Very quickly, 2 points, Madhav. First of all, I completely and humbly disagree with the respected High Court and the judge for his decision. I'm appalled that the Prime Minister's image is there on the certificate. It should not be there. It is embarrassing for Indians that this is there. The Prime Minister, and let me explain why. Number 1, it is no one's grouse that every political party does it. There are experts. I mean, you know, Congress, TMC, everyone has put their leaders on, starting from flood relief packets. I mean, the late Miss Jayalalitha was famous for it. Even a coffin was adorned with her image at one point of time. But Prime Minister Modi was different when he was the chief. I remember, I'm old enough to remember, Madhav, just 30 seconds. In 2001, Bhuj earthquake relief camps, when one BJP minister said that let us put Prime Minister's image on the flood relief packets, on the earthquake relief packets, he publicly admonished him. And from there on, 20 years later, you have stadiums named after him and he doesn't say anything. He keeps quiet. You have vaccine certificates with his photographs. He keeps quiet. I'm afraid this is not the doing of a fakir. He used to call himself a fakir. I think he has given into narcissism, and that is not healthy for a democracy. I am ashamed that Prime Minister is acting so.
Okay. Nupur Sharma, your response to that?
I humbly disagree, Madhav. First and foremost, for Mr. Sanjay Jha to say a High Court judge said, well, the High Court judge was right, because in the original constitution, secularism was not a part of our preamble. So please upgrade your knowledge. Secondly, if our honorable courts and judges are not the final repository of any kind of judicial wisdom, pray tell me why did Rahul Gandhi actually apologize before the honorable Supreme Court in a contempt case against him, which was initiated by the Supreme Court himself. उनको तो कुछ पता ही नहीं है. Rahul Gandhi should have said, "Oh, Supreme Court ने कहा चोर है." He should have gone ahead. Contempt में हो जाता, जेल क्या पड़ा है, उनको कुछ पता ही नहीं है. And thirdly, you know, Anand, I'm sorry. Herein, whatever you may say that the honorable Prime Minister is given to narcissism, I completely disagree. The fact of the matter is, here is a vaccination drive. No, I disagree. Here is a vaccination drive where our opposition parties came in public, and you remember what they said. आप कोविशील्ड लोगे तो नपुंसक हो जाओगे. आप कोवैक्सीन लोगे, so it's dangerous. And who? People like Mr. Tharoor, out of all people, who said this emergency use authorization to Covaxin is setting a dangerous precedent. We don't know how it's going to impact the people. They ensured that all kinds of obstacles that Punjabi mein rodas are created before people can actually get inoculated. We saw people in hinterland of Bihar and UP running away from inoculation drives, jumping into water bodies ke hamare ko टीका नहीं लगाना है. So I'm sorry, I am somebody who's going to give 150% credit of this inoculation drive to my Prime Minister because he had the foresight in August 2020, no less. When from the ramparts he said very soon we are going to have an indigenous vaccine, and he meant Covaxin.
Okay, Dr. Anand Ranganathan.
5 lakh people.
Dr. Anand Ranganathan.
Very humbly, may I please disagree with my wonderful friend Nupur. The answer to the fact that if somebody is alleging. Yes, Madhav, can I please?
Go ahead.
Yeah, may I please humbly disagree with my good friend Nupur? The answer to someone alleging that vaccine causes impotency is not putting Modi's picture on the certificate. Will that go on to say that vaccine is not going to make you impotent? I mean, what is the relation to that? And secondly, you could have put the Lions of Sarnath there. Why put Modi's figure? It is lending to narcissism. It is not healthy, Nupur. It is not right. Especially when Modi himself castigated a BJP minister in 2001 when he suggested कि साहब आपकी फोटो लगा दे. He said बिल्कुल नहीं. मेरी फोटो बिल्कुल नहीं लगा. वो दिन है और आज का दिन है.
Okay. You made your point. Let her respond now. You made your point, Dr. Ranganathan. Let her respond.
It was the same Professor Ranganathan who, along with other medical experts from the world over, lauded the leadership and the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister when we hit the billion mark. Yes. So I'm sorry if you've got a problem with people thanking him, and for just argument's sake, you know what he prayed? The petitioner, it is against my fundamental right to have the Prime Minister photo on the certificate. I'm sorry, largely financed by the taxpayers' money. Which fundamental right of his office is getting flouted? Simply put, that's the prayer which got shot down by the Honorable High Court.
But how does it help either is of course an important question. Quick 10-second response from Sanjay Jha. Quick 10-second response.
Madhav, no other leader in the world has done this. And I think, India is looking conspicuous for doing this irrational marketing of the Prime Minister. But I will raise one fundamental question here. Madhav, if you were Prime Minister, Ishraji was Prime Minister, Anand was Prime Minister, Nupur was Prime Minister, and well, even if yours truly was.
Completely out of time. That's a question that we're going to leave our viewers with. For the moment, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us on the News Hour this evening.